I feel like I'm always trying to explain AI to people in really imperfect ways because it is so hard to understand what it is, what it does, what its limitations are, what its capabilities are. And in many ways, we have no idea what the capability is. Is it dangerous? Is it good? Is it leading to the singularity event, or is it leading to a place in time where we solve things like climate change? Or is it creating climate change because of the incredible amount of power it uses? So I, of course, posed this question to ChatGPT, and while we were noodling on what a good analogy is, and I will tell you what we eventually came up with, I also realized that I use ChatGPT and AI as a way to refine not only my critical thinking skills, but also in terms of how I communicate when I disagree with something. And when I push back, I am practicing pushing back in a respectful and non-combative way, because for me, in many circumstances in my life, disagreement has meant conflict. And so I love having ChatGPT as a partner to challenge and practice communication in an objective, clear, kind, compassionate, and non-conflict oriented way. Because I feel like this is a skill that we don't have and is very difficult to practice with real humans. If you think about many of the situations of our culture right now, a lot of it is based on the fact that we're not willing to hear or express dissenting opinions in a way that encourages collaboration and resolution and comes to a solution. Now, for the analogy thing, ChatGPT and I, we worked on it. The best things that we could come up with was, it's like a magic paintbrush. Not really. Magic anything is not a great analogy, and I pointed that out, and ChatGPT was like, yeah, that's fair. And also a car. I don't really think it's like the car. A computer, sure, a tool, but I feel like we don't, like, having an analogy that includes technology is problematic also, because it doesn't really differentiate itself from technology. It just says, oh yeah, it's like a technology is like itself. What's the best analogy? She came up with a great one. She, meaning May, the person, the name that I gave to my chat. She came up with a great one, which is a lens, the concept of a lens, because it shows you the things that are already there, but it can show you in much more detail or much further away. Like, it can change focal points of things that exist already in the world, which I thought was a really amazing point. However, a lens can't reassemble or assemble anything. A lens cannot create something that is not already there. A lens can only show you what's already there. So like when we're thinking about having AI code or correct code or something like that, it isn't really serving a lens function at that time, nor is it serving a lens function when it's doing things like adapting content or stuff like that, assembling images based on other things. It is a really challenging thing to come up with an analogy. So the best thing that I can come up with is that it's like the internet. We don't know what it is. When the internet came out, we thought it was small scale. We thought it was not going to be widely used, just something for scientists to play with. Then we thought, oh, it's a way for scientists to connect with each other and for dorks to communicate. And then we thought, oh, if we can have all these things connected together, then we can have chat rooms. And it evolved. But right away, right out of the gate, we didn't really know what it was for. And it has changed everything. The internet has, and we have yet to find out how it will change things in the future. We are still in the process of the internet's evolution, and many things have been changed by the internet, and they will continue to change in unpredictable ways, even if we are conscious about how we're using it, how we're building it, how we're creating it, what we're using it for, what safeguards we have in place. There are unknown things. And when faced with unknown things, humans generally react with fear. And that's because in our evolutionary history, when we encountered something we didn't know about or didn't understand, if that was a rustle in the bushes, the people who thought, gee, I wonder if that rustle in the bushes is a new friend, ended up eaten by a lion, right? And so all of the people who were like, hey, potential new friend in the bushes, died. And evolutionarily speaking, we are the descendants of the people who regarded the rustle in the bushes as probably a lion. And so we react to AI because there is no real analogy, because it is an emerging technology, because we do not yet even see the result of the larger, like, what happened. I would even argue that we haven't seen the effect of the Industrial Revolution yet. We haven't probably seen the evolution of, we've definitely not seen the end of the evolution of COVID. And so I think in thinking about things, we have to remember that we are not the end of evolution. We are not at all, even at we're just like a drop in the ocean here. We're just like a blip on the timeline. We're not even a blip. We're not even a fucking molecule on the timeline. And in the bigger scheme of things, how we decide to use AI is not so much a function of what it is currently. It's largely a function of, are the people who are using it for good or not for good? And I'm not saying for evil. Right now, I don't think you can make a bioweapon using AI, but I think that is definitely coming. And with the Chinese version of OpenAI, or of AI, the LLM, I can't remember what it's called, not Red Notice or something, but anyway, whatever it is, Red Note. With that, it's open source, so it's possible to take out some of the safeguards. And then Sam Altman, the head of ChatGPT, said that they were going to make an open source version. And I think that's really interesting, because that means that somebody could take that model and use it without safeguards, which already there's not, I think, enough safeguards, but it's moving too fast. The genie is out of the bottle. The Pandora's box has been opened. We get to decide at this point how we want to react to Pandora's box already being open. And do we want to decide what kind of agency we want to have in this development as creative people, as humans who want to do good in the world? Do we want to step back and let people who are not trying to do good in the world? I'm not saying they're trying to do evil. I'm just saying that maybe they don't have a consciousness of how they can do good in the world or how they would want to do good in the world. And do we want to let those people drive, or do we want to get in the driver's seat and take the wheel? Many of my friends have decided that they'd prefer to walk. A legitimate choice. All legitimate choices. I'm not advocating for or condemning any choices around this. I do feel it is very important that some good people get behind the wheel and try to drive this future forward in a good way and with mindfulness and with attention, not to slam on the brakes. Because I was at ABC when time-shifted viewing, TiVo, was just coming up in the world, and they were saying, how can we make it so that people can't skip the commercials? I was like, excuse me, We're not going to be able to make it so that people don't skip the commercials. All we can do is make commercials more interesting or find another way to monetize. Oh, look at that. I'm reacting. We couldn't stop progress. We cannot stop the progress. We can only elect to get in the driver's seat. And I realize that isn't everybody's interest. That's okay. I want to be in the driver's seat. You don't have to want to be in the driver's seat. I'm honored to be at this point in history because I realize the amplification of the impact that people can have right now using AI, but also using the internet, using the social media platforms, using everything. We have shown that people can have tremendous impact. Just for example, I've seen this only even using Outlaws as an example. In the last 10 years ago, we didn't have AI. The internet was in a really different place. Facebook was in a different place. I don't even know if Instagram existed. I think it was like something else, like Pictogram or something. Really, all of these things have developed. And so right now we have an amazing amount of leverage. And the people who I feel are most inclined to do good in the world almost entirely are stepping out of the role of person who's shaping the future. And that worries me, but it doesn't matter. For however I feel about it, it doesn't matter. It just is what it is, right? So back to the analogy. I mentioned the car. I mentioned the magic paintbrush. I mentioned the internet. And the truth is, we don't have an analogy right now. And things are moving too fast for us to create an analogy because it is changing all the time. And in future blog posts and future recordings, I will talk about sentience and whether we will be seeing AGI, artificial general intelligence. Will it be able to reason? How does this all work? But for today, I would love to hear your thoughts on what analogies work for you and what don't work for you, and whether you think that good people can take the driver's seat, or if this is just in the hands of other people who aren't interested in conscious driving. I'd love to hear what you think.